When I was a senior in high school, my parents went to Israel for a week. And part of that week in my academic calendar spread over a 3-day weekend. So that Friday, I'm changing classes probably during the lunch period because there were a lot of people near the cafeteria. I think I came out the library and I'm walking by the vending machines and someone's like, "Yo, you're having that party tonight, right?" And I was like, "No, no, not having the party tonight." I mean, I was, but the fact that people were dapping me up in the hallway about it, no, it ain't that kind of party. I am black. Ain't no. Mm-mm. And my black friends don't even party with my white friends at that point. Like, I would invite my black friends, and they would just shake their head and close their eyes. And they're like, mm-mm, mm-mm, no. I'm like, why not? Come hang out with me on Friday. Like, y'all get too crazy. No, I'm not watching nobody jump off a roof. Not watching anything get set on fire. And black parties were totally different. Like black parties were like the parents are home, but it's a much smaller home, and we're all downstairs, and the girls are grinding on us, and it smells like sweaty balls. It smells like sweaty balls and vagina and like new tampons. I think that's what it smells like. Like, I'm trying to put my finger on it because I was at one black party and I was lucky I got to go to it because the one party I got invited to before that, I'm pretty sure my mother saved me from getting shot. Like, I was literally getting dressed and she was like, "Where? What are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm going out. I'm going to a party." She's like, "You're not going to a party." She's like, "It's 9 o'clock. Like, you are not going to a party." I'm like, "Come on. We've been talking about this all week. Come on." And that's me sounding cool. Like, I was, what, 14, 15? Like, I was upset. I'm like, but a a black party at that point, like, was like in a rough neighborhood. Like, she was probably saving my life. Like, that's what black mothers do, especially when you're like providing a middle class lifestyle for this light skinned, green eyed boy. In any case, in doing that, they tend to take trips to foreign countries. This time they told me. A lot of times I would come home. I have abandonment issues. This is all right. This is okay. I'd come home and like make dinner for myself. Nobody call. Saturday. Take care of myself. Jack off a lot. Early I don't think it was early pubescence. That was just pubescence. And next thing you know, Sunday, they're like, "Okay, ain't nobody there, are they?" "No, where are you?" "Oh, we in Canada." Like, all right. I mean, but how could I complain? Out of this whole either single family home, a lot of, yeah, the house, and then before that it was the townhouse. 3 stories each, though. You don't get that a lot in California. I was raised an East Coast baby. You got to get them 3 levels. So that way, when you have a party, this is what happened. I had a party for 3 days straight. Literally Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Because Monday we didn't have school. But like Monday is like when, if I were an alcoholic back then, I would have just wrecked my whole life. The thing is, this was crazy. It was this perfect lineup. This is why I love senior year. Like, you stick with school, you not work the system, but you work the system by being smart. Not being smart, but actually just studying for like an hour. And I just got B's, but B's get you degrees. Some say C's do. I didn't have time to get A's. Like, A's, like, you're just getting into competitive mode. Like, you're asking who has got the answers, who's got the teacher's little proctor. I was going to say ritual, but I don't think all teachers are witches. Some of them are wizards, though. So, Friday night, my friends, like these guys, guys, girls, like usually I'm partying at their house. Like, this is my time. Most of the girls hadn't shown up yet. It was like the first initial people that were just like dying to get out on a Friday night. Probably got high right after the activity buses left. So it's like 8 o'clock at night. Like, Prime time just hit. Like, we just got done watching Jeopardy, and mofos are at my house. I got a little fold up table in the basement. My room is in the basement at that point. Like, that took years to get that room in the basement because it's got a bathroom at the end of it, and then it's a den. It's a living area. It was an amazing room, and it was cold in the summer. So my setup is downstairs. Like, I'm gonna party downstairs. Oh my God, was I wrong? That party did not stay in the basement. So people like trickle in. It's like 7 of us, and then like a couple of people that like, oh yeah, I know you. Like, I'm nice to you. I'm class president. Like, I am homecoming prince. I'm prom king. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, everyone, I'm nice. Somebody comes up to me, they're like, yeah, one of these guys doesn't go to our school, much older than us. They're like, he has a gun. I'm like, nah, shut up. And they're like, no, he's got a gun. I'm like, for what? They're like, he's a drug dealer. And I'm like, oh no. So I go downstairs because I'm like, I'm just not going to go off. I'm like, we're not going to wreck the whole party on one person's opinion. I'm sitting on the couch behind this guy playing beer pong, and I see out of his waistband, he's not even like discreet with it. I don't know if he was trying to show it off, but you're with a bunch of high schoolers. Like, you bought us this beer that we're playing beer pong with, and this is the initial beer that we got. Like, the initial beer that you get in a party is literally like I wouldn't say it's not a living sacrifice. I mean, yeast, beer, bubbles, carbonation. Something about it is alive, but there is a symbol to it. And he got us this beer. I mean, I was just bent on, I was running off the adrenaline that all this was happening. Like, I didn't know what was happening. Like, obviously in the back of my mind, I was probably hoping like the hottest guy would show up, which, okay, they did. We'll get to that. Okay, I got to take a note. Because I already had this episode lined up, and now we're going on tangent. Okay, no. Hot guys at Israel party. Alright, here we go. I'm going to say their names, but I'm not going to tell you guys. If I do, I'll cut it out. Alright, now. So anyway, I tell my best friends. Oh, I tell like 2 of them. I'm like, tell them. Tell our friends, get out when I say my aunt is coming over. Because, like, if you knew me, you know I got family in the area. Like, my church, school, like, we were rolling thick. Like, we were deep in the area. And so it was like, I lived in one neighborhood. I had 2 aunts in another neighborhood. And then I had another aunt, like, 5 miles away. And they got kids. Like, we were rolling deep, like, my cousin everywhere. Actually, nobody knew we were related because he did not want anything to do with me because there was this big ass picture of me and Oprah in the trophy case in the business hallway, which is just the hallway upstairs when you go up a stairwell. And he was just like, yeah, people would be like, yo, you're that guy, you're Oprah's friend's nephew or like cousin. And he hated it. But, like, I was super gay. So all the girls that liked me, like, when they found out he was my cousin, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I'm not going to say that. He's a bad mamma jamma, though. He's a good-looking guy. And thank you for your service, brother. So I tell these guys my aunt's coming over. The whole party gets all erratic. And I see this guy with the gun that's just, like, kind of faking. I'm saying it's holstered. It's not really holstered. It's hanging out. If I can see it, if I could grab it while I'm sitting out the couch, like, you need, if I even know that it's there, why would you bring a gun to a high school party? Who are you expecting to show up? Who are you scared of? Rhetorical questions. So my friend, everyone leaves, like, disperse. The house is just quiet. The killing artists in the streets, Alamo knows no chic. We gave them some some resistance, and then they took the boys. These children born in paradise, but raised in holy hell. And now they're running for the ocean. Pretty boy rock, to the 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 pretty boy rock. And find your way, find your way. I think you can find your way. Yes, you will. Yes, you will find your way. No, you've been wandering. No, you've been searching. But find your way. Been out here so long, and it's so cold. But find your way. Find your way. Hey, hey, hey. We about to get it. It's the rhetorical sake. So I was texting my closest friend, my comrade, that I told the plan. And 5 minutes later, my house is empty. I walk out on my front porch, and I just start seeing bodies crossing my lawn, my neighbors' lawns, like just running. Like, I think they thought they were hiding out of the shadow of the light. I don't know. But we got them out of there. And, oh my gosh, the next 3 days, there are probably some people that are nervous right now if they're listening to this that know me. I'm not going to talk about the specifics, but I did tell you the hot guys came over, and one of them, he was a kleptomaniac, and I had to tell him, okay, so at first it was like the crew, like the standard crew, like your friends that are just going to be there at the start of the party, at the end of the party. And then like people start to show up, and the girls all show up together, and they were a little clique called the 10. And yeah, I'm not naming names, but they knew who they were. The 10 drove people fucking crazy in high school. It was totally Mean Girls. Like when Mean Girls came out, we were in high school, and it just epitomized them. They have a table. It's like some witchcraft shit that they sign, because people rotate in and out of the 10, and the 10 are the supposedly, allegedly, the top 10 girls in your school or this school. And you know, I had been like really vying to be friends with them from probably sophomore year at least, when I learned of them. I think that's when. But I knew of them, and I knew the guys that hung out with them, and I would literally sit alone at lunch and look at their table. And then when I got to that table, the end of junior year, literally probably the last day, they were like, "Oh, no. It wasn't at the lunch table. It was at a party." And they were like, "We thought you had friends." And I was like, "No, I wanted to be friends with you all." So people came over. The 10 came over. I'm sitting with like 3 or 4 of them in my kitchen dinette area of my parents' house. And this guy comes over that I don't have any classes with, but I see him driving to school. He lives on my side of town. Like if I was waiting for the bus, I would see this kid like driving, and then I was driving. I just thought he was the knees bees. Like he's so hot. Blonde, just perfect. No, like people shave their noses in Hollywood to look like this guy's, and dress like a black guy, like just a little thug. And it turned me on so much. And so when he was in my kitchen, like standing next to where I usually, go for the gusto with my food, I told him in front of these girls, I'm like, don't steal. You can stay here, but don't steal anything in this house. I said, I know you like to steal. And he nodded at me. It was the closest. This is probably the much we've ever spoken in our lives. He left that room, tread downstairs, and I go back to talk to the girls. And one of them reaches for her beer, and the other one. And then we're looking at where there was a case of beer on the table. The case is still there, but there's several beers missing. And they're like, oh my God, where's my beer at? And I was like, fucking klepto. Fucking klepto. But it kind of turned me on, to be honest. So he faded out. Like, it's not like he stayed, but, you know, one of my buddies' brothers showed up, and I'm like, look, I play sports with these guys. I don't want to sleep with these guys. But then you have their brothers that are older, and they have six packs, and they've drank before, and they're just really at your house to get turned up. And it's, I'm smitten. I'm smitten because I've been doing it at your place all year. All year, just getting drunk and you yelling at your little brother, and then me waking up the next morning and wondering, like, what is this life like? Like, you have this huge ass house, you're white, you're men, and just like totally enthralled. And so what I've noticed is I start to attract these type of men in my life. And it's not that I'm not attracted to white guys anymore or anything like that because of this. It's just a realization, because a lot of what I have pursued rather than what naturally grows has been based on this capitalistic, hedonistic, privileged society that I grew up in. You have to understand, like, this house party was on a golf course. And yeah, pretty vicious cycle, beautiful cycle. Anyway, part of that cycle, that weekend, the bathtub in that bathroom was full of beer and ice the whole weekend. I remember on Saturday morning, I think after the first night, we didn't really know the party was going to keep going. We were vacuuming around a body. A man. He didn't go to our school or something. I don't know. I worked with his sister, but he came over and just got wazed, and he came over at like midnight. Like, he was clearly messed up and was just down there to get messed up. And I thought he was cute. I mean, his sister was known for being hot, but there was no way. Like, he was just incoherent, like standing, looking at you, talking to you. And so when we woke up in the morning, this is my first time kind of experiencing a party culture. And I'm vacuuming around him because we're cleaning up the house because I'm worried. It's my first night. Little do I know, that bathtub downstairs, I go down to my bedroom. So to get to that bathroom where it's basically a beer chest now, there's this like super hot guy in my bed, and I had never even really thought of him like that. I didn't even realize he was that hot until like I sprung awake, shirtless, tatted up, like six pack in my bed, like my queen size bed in the basement room. Just like a fantasy unknown type thing. And it just was a moment. Clearly, I remember it because I was like, oh, wow, like this is what it's like. And so I'm just glad that weekend I never was able to really take it for granted, because it really kind of put me on the map socially after months of being this guy that would go to parties. Now I was able to host a party, and I still have friends to this day that I joked, like, people were downstairs in the basement. You can't see the front door, obviously, from the stairs. And, you know, they heard someone come in, and I'm walking down the stairs. They can't see me yet. And I'm like, all you underage drinkers, put your hands up. Now, wait a second. And then I stepped down, and they were like, oh, God, thank you. sighs of relief. And it's just those moments. It's those moments that you don't know. And I don't ever want to take those for granted. And I don't think I did. I think I was really reveling in it then. And now at my older age, or after what's gone on, yeah, it's just age. It's just time and behavior and practices. I realize I was I was cherishing so many of those precious things because I vied for them for so long. Like so many times sitting in my room after school wondering like what are other kids doing? And then to be one of those kids was a whole different ball game. And it was a different ball game of guilt as well, because when my parents got home, we had cleaned up the house so well, but there was like that stench of beer. And I had a field trip to go on the next day, and I still needed my mom to sign the release form, like, okay, the liability form. And I was like the one that had to go on the field trips, like class president, vice president of business club. There was a lot of pressure, but it was also like a huge relief and vacation. Like, this is what we work so hard for every day after school, all the competitions and little things they keep you busy with, they keep you off the streets, that's for sure. It was amazing, and it taught me how to grow as a person. It brought me out of my shell, and eventually like that club, business club, is what brought me into my own by senior year. And so when my mom found a bottle cap underneath the only thing she found 3 days, like someone threw up on the stairs. The stain is there to this day, unless they've changed the carpet. That stain was there when I left for college and have been back. I remember him about to make out with a girl, and he literally starts vomiting. And for I don't know what he ate. Stain is still there. But my mom finds a bottle cap of a Corona. I don't even think I had Corona. I was drinking Natty Light underneath the garbage can. We had changed the garbage bag, obviously, like taking out the garbage. I think garbage day came. I think they came Tuesday night, and since garbage was delayed, it got picked up that morning. So I was in the free and clear. I know that's usually the getter right there. And I'm talking like people smoking weed in my house, and I'm like, dude, you gotta get out of here. Like, let's go outside, not out of the party, but come on. And then I'm realizing, okay, this party's a little out of control while I'm still trying to, mingle, whatever. So, my mom sits down in front of me, and she wants to pray about this situation because she's worried about me. And that's like the worst feeling. It's one thing to be in trouble and be grounded, but when your parents legitimately start praying with you, I don't care if you're white, black, like that's the most guilt ridden. So I'm sitting on a bus 2 hours later to Birmingham, Alabama for this leadership conference from Northern Virginia. And my mom got back from Israel. She gave me a stuffed sheep, a stuffed toy sheep. And she said that she got it by the Sea of Galilee. All right, thanks. And we would give each other little trinkets from traveling and stuff. I actually used to collect shot glasses. I used to collect towels, but I realized towels get washed and then you buy them from other countries and they're like all faded and whatnot. But shot glasses, in my house, they didn't drink. Like they literally, they just weren't drinkers. Like if they brought home a bottle of wine, I would have a glass and no one would notice because they're not like measuring the bottle. But maybe that's why I wanted to drink, because there was never any alcohol in the home. So I was like, oh, there's alcohol here. Who knows? But, I go on this thing and this field trip. Oh, wow. A lot happened that field trip. Broke my ankle doing the Soldier Boy. That's the time and frame of it. And you're like, you roll. And I jumped up and I came down, and I was on crutches, and I was trying to tell people at school the next week, like, oh, I was in a fight at my party, Don't ever want to take that for granted. Don't want to take the grace and mercy that I was shown from that bottle cap being found. and that little toy sheep. And I say that because I did not know that in 2010 I would travel to Israel. And I got on a boat one morning with 59, 60 other students. I was the only black person in that group studying abroad from my college. And we do this tour of the Sea of Galilee. And at the end of it is this, like this, I don't want to say fortified, but this destroyed boat, or there's a word for it. Hopefully I'll find it. I can plug it in. Fortified, atrophied. It's just like this eaten wood. And they're like, yeah, this boat was supposedly one of the boats of Peter. They've kept it here all these years. It's like you see all that all the time when you're touring Israel. But there's this little museum right here, and so we're going to take a bathroom break, but we got to get right to the bus. So we're already running late, and the director of my program does not play. Like, she's like, I will leave you in this third world country. Get on the bus in 2 minutes. And I'm like, there's 30 of us that need to use the men's room. Good luck. Good luck. You better make it happen. Yeah. So I run into this little gift shop. Obviously, I take a piss first. I don't even remember the bathrooms because I peed a lot. I've peed all over the world. I think that's the best part about traveling is when you're able to find a spot you can relieve yourself. And you're like, this place has got culture. And you start taking in the bathroom and you realize people are shitting on your feet. It's exotic. So I run in, and all these ladies are dressed in black. And they have all this makeup on, this eyeliner, and they're like, oh, you're so pretty. What is your, where are you? Who are you? What are you? Oh, you have green eyes. Okay, let me interest you in this. Perfume, perfume, perfume. And I'm like, is this the boat? My mom said she got the toy sheep by a boat, and I see all these little sheep. But you see these sheep toys kind of everywhere in Israel. It's just a tourist attraction. It's like getting a Mickey Mouse doll from Disneyland. I'm like, I gotta get it from here. Like, I have to. But the bus is leaving, and there's a line at the counter. And I wait in line. I grab the doll, and I'm running out of this place, this gift shop, and I hit the sliding doors are closing as I'm running out. But I'm watching the tour bus with all my friends, my roommates on it, leaving. I'm like, I'm not fucking staying in Israel, like in the middle of nowhere. And I'm not white, so it would be one thing if one of y'all got left behind, but this bus should have never hit drive without my black ass on it. And I hit the door so hard, this black thing at the top, I don't know what it was, but it fell off. And I just hear this guy say, hey, hey, hey. And I just jump on the bus. Like, they opened the door while they were moving. I didn't even know if it was my bus because there's 60 of us. So you can't have all 60 students on one tour bus. Like, you have them on two. And we're in a third world country, so we've been like trained to act a certain way, type thing, to say not say certain things that Americans are just kind of oblivious about. So I got this stuffed sheep, and I think I spent probably another 4 or 5 months studying abroad until I was able to bring it back home. And I didn't tell my mom at all, but I was able to, like, you know, surprise her when I came home. I was like, oh, yeah, I got this one gift for you. And it was a sheep. And there was a sheep always sitting in my bedroom while I was gone studying abroad upstairs. Well, was it upstairs? I don't know. It had to be downstairs. It was the downstairs bedroom. Yeah. So I brought my mom a sheep, and she just melted. And it's just like, there's something about seeing that compassion in your mother's eyes. And it's like, I don't ever want to take this for granted. And we do that. It's so easy to do that. Like, we forget the little moments because I don't know about you, but I feel oversaturated sometimes with the news, with the world's problems. And we feel like it's our responsibility, especially living here, because we are a dominating force. And then interpersonally, you have your own stuff to deal with. And so it's easy to get into this mind trap of, oh, well, it's not that bad. I'm not running from a city. I'm not trying to save my family's life. I didn't just see someone I know or I'm related to get blown to pieces because I live here. But I'm not going to beat myself up for that. I cannot. It was not my choice. I mean, for some people, it is their choice. Like, you have that option if you make every move, and that's what you desire. But my desire, my passions have led me to stay here. But I'm also with that. Why? Oversaturation, consumption, capitalism, gain, 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 money, 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 rich, 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 fame, fame, fame. I really don't need all of that to survive. That is what this platform, this podcast is for, is I've realized I don't need any of that to survive because I have had it, I've seen it, I've experienced it, and on very mild scales. But when I'm not going to go into, we can go into the whole Hollywood situations another time because that's a whole different story. But what I noticed when I brought my mom this sheep is that she was married, and my mother had never been married my whole life. She didn't get married till I was, 17 years old? And I think they were engaged for like 3 years. And I'm mentioning her story a lot because it had a lot to do with this transitional coming of age, adolescent, teenage period of my life. And I was experiencing the world, and I was able to come back my first 2 years of college to a stable home. And it got ripped away from me over the next few years while I'm still in college. And that was tough. Like, and it's hard to mediocreize, how do you say, like, minimize the severity of that loss because I'm going from this taste of living to not necessarily a high class of living, but I knew what I was experiencing every moment I was studying abroad, that I was really experiencing a moment. And it's a moment, it's a taste. And if you have a taste for something, but you've never tasted it, then you won't crave it. But once you get that first taste, and you know, oh, this is where it's at, you revel in it. You love it. You might try to produce it, create it. But that takes time. That takes getting to know it. That takes getting the process. Some people are much better at getting to break down the reproductive process of substance, of moment. For me, I was drunk off of it because I was going up, 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 not only in Italy, not only in Israel, not only abroad, in America. Because while I was studying abroad, while I was in Israel, there was TV commercials of me. There were campaigns, like photo shoots that were hitting. So stuff I did a couple of years before that were just finally starting to get traction. And so when I come home, I'm on this upper echelon. I remember coming home for Christmas break, one college break, and I hadn't been home for 5 minutes, and there's a ring at the doorbell. And my parents don't move because they're like, ain't nobody ever rang this doorbell. I go downstairs, it's two of my homies. Like, we don't talk, like, we don't text or nothing like that. Obviously, we went to our own schools, whatever. But they were like, you want to go sledding? I'm like, we are 19 years old. Do I want to go sledding? Yes, absolutely. Immediately. I mean, I wasn't home for 5 minutes. It was like people knew I was in town. And I'm not, yeah, ego, but also privilege. It was all hitting me. And it got stripped away slowly. I saw it happening, crumbling around me, my little structure. I think that is where the melancholy comes from, is this, did I take it for granted? But I really think I really tried hard to revel in every moment. And I think reveling to me was drinking to it. and being obnoxious in it, or not obnoxious, but intoxicated in it. But that actually contributed to me missing the moment. And that's what I respect about people that are engaged or married, because now I see my friends that are engaged and married. And I got this one friend, he's married, has been for probably 15 years. He's sober, great guy. And it just is like, I see that we went out to dinner together. I don't do that with most people I meet in AA or the rooms. As a grown person, as a man, and I'm gay, and you're not ugly. But we had this fraternal relationship, and that is totally, this also reignited in me, like, this is possible. You've had this before, you can have it. Because after college, I was pretty devastated. I felt like I lost all my friends to coming out, to being who I was. And so he introduced me to his family, introduced me to his wife. I was hanging out with his kids. His little daughter, toddler, was always bringing me toys, like, back and forth. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do with all these toys. And then one by one, she would walk across the room, grab another one, bring it to me. And I'm like, she loved it. She loved it. She's like 4 years older now, like totally different person. But what I realized lately and recently, not that this has been happening lately, but for him, for my other guy friends that are married, it's like I give one idea, like, hey, let's do something. And they're like, oh, yeah. Or they kind of offer up. They're like, oh, you're in town? You need a ride to the airport? And it's like, what? I thought you're always doing stuff. You're always driving to soccer practice and stuff. And I realize is like they have such a routine. And they're kind of dying to get out of it emotionally. They're dying to break the routine. Anything that can, like, just change up this monotony. And I'm just like, do you see, like, you have what I want? This is what I'm on Grindr for, on Scruff, on Tinder. Freaking swiping left and right, whatever, picking and choosing people based off these felonious pics. I wish I had what you had. And they are vying to break the chaos of routine. Drives them crazy. Like, you would drive me 3 hours to the airport from your house just to say you're being of service? Or is there something else to it in that, not sexual at all, nothing like that, because we're bros. Like, I love my bros. Like, they know. But more so, you clearly want something out of this that I can't provide. But anybody, the opportunity. This might be a little controversial to say. I'm going to have a sip of water here. But I'm saying that in duality, in contrast, the dichotomy is that as someone, as a single person, you loathe the chaos of routine. I would die for it. I would die to have the family, the friends, the stature, the house, the car, and you're clawing at the edges to get out of it. I don't want to take it for granted. So seeing that reminds me, not even just reminds me, ignited me. I'm in a vape. There's something to being single. There's something to being 32. There's something to being black, green-eyed, with big-ass man titties. There's something to it. Some people wish they were me. And I wish I was, not that I wish I was other people, but wish I had what they had. Or this programming. But what I'm realizing is that the substance, the content, this episode wouldn't even be possible if it weren't for the distress. So what I don't want to do is take for granted the distress, the difference. It's that difference that made all of this possible. It's that difference, that friction, that grind that gave me a certain know-how. And what I don't want to do is take that for granted. It's unfortunate because I'm laced with this perception, this veil over my eyes, these glasses that when the light comes in of the image, it drapes it in this idea of that I deserve this, rather than this is a blessing, this is luck, this is a moment. And instead, I render the help of it, the assistance, to be weak. Like, it's like I decimate the character of circumstance. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do that. I want the help. I want the assistance. I want the guidance. I want the bumper rails on the bowling alley. Because I'm not perfect. I'm not going to get a strike every time. I say this because this is why I mentioned my middle class upbringing. This is why I mentioned I lived on a golf course. Because there's something about being spoiled versus impoverished. In my story, like I have this case of mistaken identity. I think as a white man in a black man's body. I feel like I've been betrayed. I don't think I've ever said that before. I do. I feel like I've been betrayed. Yeah, I call out my race and how I was the only person of color or black person, or maybe one of 2 or 3 in my classrooms. I think because I'm realizing it frustrates me. It frustrates me that in the same classes, I work twice as hard just to get half as far, not even. But I am almost emotionally, maybe spiritually impoverished with mistaken identity. Like the spoiled, those who like freely give abundance, they tend to take it for granted. So when I'm in college, when I'm in Italy, when I am sitting on the coast, the Amalfi Coast, looking at Mount Vesuvius, drinking wine, and having lasagna in Italy, and someone's like, I'll pay for it. Did I take it for granted? No. Did it burn my nerves? Yes. Maybe that is actually me taking it for granted. Because you're taking something away from me that I felt like either I worked for, but then when you give it to me, I feel like I deserved. I mistook the necessity, the enough, that my situation for abundance was expendable. I mistook like my situation. I thought that it guaranteed abundance. I thought that it guaranteed, since you've experienced this, since you know what it's like to control yourself in another country for a year, countries, as a black man, and you not only survive, you progress, you furthered your degree, you got closer to walking across that graduation stage, you made great friendships, you fell in love. But I took it for granted. And that's what I don't want anyone else to do. I was met with this need again when I came back to America and my parents' relationship fell apart, and then this Jeep that was supposed to be building my credit by me paying for it every month became this bane of my existence, because They were ripping money out of my account. I took the money out of that account. Next thing you know, I can't pay rent, and I'm living in a single family home in Calabasas with 4 of my fraternity brothers. And my life is falling apart. And I felt like they were taking for granted the privilege that they had, the ease and comfort that they had. See, for them, like when they signed the lease, they knew, oh, my year of living is solid. For me, when I signed the lease, it was just a week. It was just a month, maybe 2, where I knew, okay, we're good. Got the deposit, got first month. Okay, this is 4 weeks. What are we going to do to get the next 4 weeks? Don't take your moment for granted. I'll never forget walking out of that last final. And all my finals, because I studied rhetoric, were oral. And that's not impressive if you are from another country, because in most countries, whether you study chemistry, well, I don't know most countries, but in a lot of, well, in Italy, look, let me just go off what I know. My friends, all their exams were oral, and they had like 5 final classes to pass. I had like 2 by the time I got to my senior year, and then I was just chilling on GE, so I was just barely making 12 full units. Well, I had at least 14 because I was always doing surfing. Black surfer, baby. I walked out of that last final after giving my last speech, and I went to my mailbox on campus, which had been such a devastating place because every time I opened it, it was either empty or was filled with bills that I'm like, why? I'm in college, like I cannot pay anything. But it was filled with the check. It was filled with the months, I think almost semesters worth of financial aid. And this was after moving into the garage of the Calabasas house and then being homeless, and this was after all that. But I don't want to take for granted what came out of me in those moments, those nights when I couldn't pay my rent, when I moved to the garage, when I slept there and I still went to class. I didn't give up. I don't want to take that for granted, and I have to hold on to that. I hope people hold on to their hard times, to the times where it makes you sick to think about going through that. It feels undeserved. But in actuality, it brought out something in us that we didn't even know that we had. We didn't even know that we were capable. We didn't know what was on the other side. All we knew was, if I get through today. Like, it's like those times where like you lay your head on the bed, you have a place to sleep at night. You're not partying at someone's house because you need a place to stay, and you just pass out drunk, quote unquote, hoping they don't ask you to leave. Like, you're able to close your eyes and say, like, I have a place. And like, in that meantime, it took years. It took a while. I mean, eventually I was living on a boat in Marina del Rey. I was working at this fish shack, and I was like, dude, maybe if I change my attitude. I don't know. I think acid. I did LSD during that time, and I was just like, just stay happy. Like, after the acid faded, because it made me. LSD only microdosed, like half a tab, and like I'm talking about something that fits in the middle of my index finger, like a little snot rocket or something. Not even a snot rocket. I have bigger snot rockets than this acid tab, but these things, microdosing, helped me and helped me realize, have a good attitude and be grateful for where I'm at. And I realized, like, I see the gray whales migrating past this bay almost every year. Yeah, I've been here 7 years, but how many times have you seen whales breaching out of water? I've seen them at least 3 or 4 times. And that's at the corner of my eye. Like, you get so used to this visual, you see something out in the distance in between you and Catalina, and you're like, that's a whale. The first time, no, maybe not. And then the first time was like, oh my God. Like, I don't know how to describe seeing a whale is, but I started to not take things for granted. And I'm noticing like me doing that is creeping up again. This entitled sense of where I should be at 30, at 32. And I think it's due to capitalism. I think it's due to consumption. I also think it's a lack of willingness, in-depth introspection. And I say this as a person that's done the 12 steps of AA twice and a half. And it wasn't until I was working with my therapist was like, these steps, you're looking at a lot of what you've done, but I want to know who you are. And I was like, okay. He's like, tell me 3 good attributes, 3 good traits you have. And I struggled. And he turned me on to the fact that I have been looking at my faults, everywhere I messed up, my bad parts for 4 years. For 4 years. And I don't blame that on rehab. I don't blame that on AA. I blame that on me. Look, for me, you try it. Tried singing. Well, I try singing. I still try it. Try writing in Hollywood. Try screenplays. Try noveling. Try authoring. Try self-publishing. Try graphic design. Try being a straight man. I'll try it. That doesn't make it right for me, but that doesn't mean I take that situation for granted. So my needs are met, and I'm at a crossroads. I can either revert to old behavior or keep on endeavoring and enduring towards gratitude. And I know that sounds cheesy. I know it sounds stupid. But literally, like, there's this guy, he has no idea. He has no idea where I've been, but he texts me every day. I think he got my number 3 or 4 years ago, and he still texts me a gratitude list. Do you know how much longevity gratitude adds to a life? I'll make a note, put something in show notes. Gratitude. People that live long usually are grateful. Gratitude list. Show notes. I'm going off book. Notebooks weren't even here. When my desperation fades, when that gift that was given me is no longer a gift, and it loses its narrative. When that desperation fades, when I forget how bad it was and how bad I wanted out, there could call it a relapse. You could call it a relapse. Could say, oh, this guy he drank again. He's a piece of shit. You could say it's an intimate relationship with God. And maybe this guy's got enough faith that if he had it before, if he had something that he may have took for granted before, maybe, just maybe, he'll have it again. Maybe he's got it right now. Maybe she does. Maybe they do. I don't want to give up on that. Because we are inundated with this narrative to give up and die. Don't you ever die. A big part of my daily process is working out. And when I come back to the weights, especially after 2020, I really spent that year drinking. And 2019, I was very close to optimizing. I think I was right up on the come up. And it's been difficult. It's been very difficult training. I started from scratch, though. And by scratch, I mean lightweight, low weight, baby. And it took a while. I would do those either to failure. At first, probably did them sets of 12. by 3. So 12 reps, 3 sets. And then, honestly, like most of the workouts, like I'm there by myself. So I'm like, okay, we did 12 the first time. We'll do 10. And I know that's my problem. Like if I actually like probably pumped it the last 4 reps by the end of the third set, I'd probably be where I was, because that's what I was definitely doing in 2014. But I had someone kind of over my head, and I was in love with them. And that oxytocin, I'm telling you, like, I've realized so much. It's like I don't take the heartbreak for pain, because now I realize that being in love was healthy for me. It doesn't make me desperate for it. It's not like a drug. It's more, it took work. But when I realized that state of mind I was in where he could do no wrong, if I'm with him, can do no wrong. Like, and I know that's not true, but that's how I felt. For the first time in my life, like the pressure was off of me to do everything and perform. And he was at every party. He saw me come up. I brought him up. And he almost broke me. I don't take that for granted. I don't take that relationship. I don't take him for granted. I tried reaching out to him after 3 years. Christmas break, I think it was Christmas Eve. I get it. Probably with family or whatever. I mean, I used to be at your Thanksgiving table. So, my call doesn't mean anything. But you moved on. Have I? How do you move on when you're still processing what happened when you were 3? What happened when you were 6? What happened when everything was great? Not just the bad times. Quote unquote, we didn't even know they were bad till we got older. Don't take it for granted. There's an edge to that. There's a cut to that. It's the way the blade, the sword, the metal is sheared. It's the way that if you really looked at it with a microscope, why it cuts the way it does. That's why you don't cut sandwiches with a butcher knife. Not because you'll cut yourself, because a butcher knife is very sharp. Can't cut the bread. You need something that's going to grab edges. You got to do long strokes. Long. You cut it like it's a piece of meat. That's a piece of bread, honey. And I'll call you honey if you a boy, if you a they, if you them. And that's what I hate about labels too. Like, I'm not even gay. Like, I literally watch, if you're beautiful, if there's passion, I think, if you reach into the narrative of what is attractive to me, what I want to jack off to, that whole illustration, I don't really care what porn it is. Like, I'm excited. It makes me excited for where my life is going. And I think I definitely took for granted the hate I felt for myself. Because that hate is now turning to love. It was like the nut. And it would have been nothing as a nut. Just another tree of hate. But instead I'm pressing it, refining it, and letting it crush and seep into oil. And there's something so priceless about that. I turned up the weights today when I worked out. Like, they were, what I did today used to be my max. Used to be like, that's heavy. And it wasn't heavy today. And I was surprised. I was like, whoa. Like, that was nothing. Because I was doing HIIT intervals. So I wanted to do a minute of how many reps till you felt. I think it's AR, as many as you can do. I don't know what they call it in CrossFit. But pretty much to failure. in a given amount of time, 60 seconds. Everything else I was doing was 30 seconds. So burpees, mountain climbers, and then flutter kicks. And I have not done flutter kicks. Oh my God. I was doing flutter kicks in the gym, y'all. Okay. But it brought me to this point because I've been mulling over this episode for granted. What was it going to be? What is it about? It has been hard. Like, it has been tough. This has been a tough year for a lot of us. And that's not for us to feel bad. That's a reminder for us not to take this time for granted. Bleed into it. Fall into it. Feel it. Because I don't know about you, but when I read the stories about our past, whether you're white or black, my German kinfolk or my black kinfolk, I don't believe in African American. I mean, there are African Americans, but I believe in y'all, okay? But out of the black people that are in America, black Americans, I fall into that story, and then I beat myself up. I'm like, well, they were stronger. They were better. Don't take for granted the privilege that we have been given just by being born now, just by having breath in our lungs now. I'm talking to myself. I can't tell nobody else what to do. I have been looking at this mic in my room, staring at it on the side of my Mac, of my computer, and unable to fathom, what do you got to say? Who are you? It ain't nothing. And this episode has been on my mind for months, because sometimes when you have control over something, you realize you don't cut it. You don't add to it. It's like a beautiful painting, sculpture, piece, until you know. And tonight I knew. I'm not taking this moment for granted. And this moment may seem very small to many, but it's very, very extremely big to me. And that's all right. Whatever I got left to say to y'all, I'll include it in another show. I'm really grateful for this. And I know you hear it. I know you're with me. Not to be cheesy, there was no commercials during this show. So, you can email me at earth, that's earth without the A, at ERTH at er.live. That's er.live. That's my website, www.erhunter.live. I'm gonna revamp it. Y'all know me. Like, I'm down to like do the thing for the cause, like the product, the service, whatever. Like, we can make it as modern as possible, but I'm not gonna be changing everything every 5 seconds for popularity. Clearly, this has been really cathartic. I'm really glad I did this, and I'm just gonna post it. I've already slipped in the front track. I might tweak it a little bit. I'm pretty sure I didn't say anybody's names that I really know. But, you know, this is all coming from a guy that sees aliens and whatnot and believes in Jesus and sucks dick. So, this is your super dumb thick Jesus freak, ER Hunter, signing off. Thank you guys so much. Nice to see you again. Take me to your leader. Take me to your leader. Welcome to Earth. They weren't ready for this one. We about to get it. Yeah.
Mayday! Mayday! We are spinning out of control. Mission control, can you read me? We are flying around this thing. We are like a satellite. We are in orbit.
Like a satellite, just like a satellite.
Everything that you thought you lost, everything you thought you just wouldn't get back, it's all coming back. You just gotta persevere.
Take me, take me, take me to your leader. Oh, take me to your leader. Take me to your leader. Take me, take me.
Mayday, we have crash landed. We need help. This planet is on fire. They're killing black people in the streets. If they don't come get us, I don't think that we're gonna make it. Mission control, send in the Titans, send in the drones, send in everything you got, cause we need to come home.
1, 0, all engine running. We have a liftoff.